This is the second part of the program. We have two candidates running in the Democratic primary for the 6th District State Senate. They are Erica Geis and Robert Kozowski. The 6th District covers the cities of Westland, Belleville, Flat Rock, Rockwood, Romulus, and Taylor, and the townships of Van Buren, Sumter, Brownstone, and Huron. Each candidate will be allowed 1 minute for an opening statement, 1 minute to respond to questions, and 1 minute for a closing statement. We'll begin with Mrs. Geis. And will you introduce yourself, please, and give your opening statement?
Thank you, Roberta, and to the League of Women Voters, and to our hosts here. My name is Erica Geis. I'm running for State Senate for the 6th Senate District. You already heard the 10 municipalities that it covers. I am currently serving as a state representative for House District 12, which covers Romulus, Taylor, and a portion of Van Buren Township. And I'm running because it is an open seat. Our current senator, as you all know, hopefully, is term limited out. But I believe that I will be able to take the leadership skills, the expertise that I have received in my past 2 terms to truly serve our community on a much bigger platform.
Good evening, my name is Robert Kozowski. It's a pleasure being here. I really appreciate Roberta doing this. I think an informed voter is the right voter, and that's why I love when we have forums like this. I've truly been blessed to be your state rep in Westland Wayne for the last 6 years. You know, we went to Lansing and we decided that we wanted to do a job. We introduced a lot of legislation. We did a lot for working families. I like to talk about my 2 sons who I adopted, one when he was a day old, the other one when he was 3 years old, because they're the ones that I go to Lansing for. They're our future. And it's the things like our young folks, and you'll hear more when we get to questions, that we have really tackled in Lansing. I'm proud to say that I was a ranking Democrat on school aid, so I was able to go to Lansing and really fight for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. The first question, we'll start with Mrs. Geis. How many bills have you produced in the State House, and what are you most proud of?
Let's see, I've introduced over 30 bills and House resolutions. I am most proud of the work that I've done for both terms on pay equity legislation, as the vice chair of the Progressive Women's Caucus. I am the lead on our economic task force and the lead on our pay equity legislation that has several bills that would close the pay gap, not only for women, but also for minorities, and addressing the various ways that we can lift women economically and their families economically.
Thank you very much. Both candidates should watch the camera,
Okay.
not me. Sorry.
Okay. So the question was how many bills you introduced. I'm proud to say that I have over 155 bills that I personally introduced. I lead the entire legislature in introducing bills. They range from veterans to school aid to senior things to foster care. We went there to do a job. I've had 12 bills passed into law, which I'm very proud of. The biggest one is going to be that it helped domestic violence victims with a PPO, because earlier you could not put an animal on that. What we found out through research is that men were abusing women and saying, I'm going to hurt your dog or your cat if you don't come back to me. So that is now in law. Plus we have a great veterans law. We have 2 veterans law that has passed to help them with certification. That's one of the things I'm very proud to lead the entire legislature. And if you went on my webpage, you would see we are well-rounded. We offer a lot of bill ideas.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with Mr. Kozowski. How do you plan to fund roads and education?
Sure, that's an excellent question. It's one of the other things I'm proud of. Education, I've introduced about 20 bills. I just introduced a funding mechanism. It was brought up earlier about how schools get their money, and it's called the 2X formula, because they're trying to catch the bottom to catch up to the top, so you get rid of that 7,800 compared to 14,000. But it's not good enough. So we at least put in a 3X policy that will hopefully push them even a little bit more. But the biggest thing I want to talk about is roads, because our roads are horrendous. The sports bill has not passed, but I didn't introduce it because that's one of the things I do. When I went there, I wanted to get outside the box. I want to have ideas where I had solutions. I didn't want to just stand and complain about things. I wanted to show that this is how we fix it, and here's how we can do it with this revenue source. So I'm really hoping our sports betting goes through. It could be anywhere from $400 million to $1 billion, because we have no idea how much money people are betting right now. And I think that way we don't have to tax you, the residents.
Thank you. So I think part of our road funding issue has to do with misplaced priorities in the overall budget. I don't believe that we are allocating the right amount of funds into our Department of Transportation, or for that matter, in terms of revenue sharing to our local units of government so that they can have the funding to fix the local roads. So your neighborhood streets, those don't come out of the Department of Transportation budget. I think we really need to look at which departments that we can make changes in. So for example, Department of Corrections is one of our largest budgets. And if we look at some of the reasons that some of the folks who are incarcerated are in, and finding better ways to get them trained so that they can get on probation and be released, and they are now no longer what is roughly a $45,000 per year cost per prisoner, we'd be able to find better budget options.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Geis, the next question's for you. If the Democrats take control of Lansing, what would you do to make charter schools accountable?
Thank you. We need to look at the fact that they do not pay into mixers. So charter schools are public school academies, so they're this hybrid system. And to look at how we hold them accountable in terms of what they offer. So ensuring that they take students who have special needs that all of our public schools are required to do. And in making sure that they're also providing the same level of service in terms of things like transportation that our traditional public schools do. I know a few things about the public schools, being the vice president of my school's PTO, where my youngest child goes, and also having served as a public school teacher on our community college level. I think that there are some charters that are doing well, but we need to make sure that we are ensuring that all of the other options for parents outside of traditional public schools are proper.
So look, I believe it's a parent's choice to send their kid wherever they want, be it Catholic, charter, wherever. But let's make this a level playing field. Charters get to go in and handpick whoever they want to get. It's an embarrassment that they can do that. You know the other thing? They don't take disabled kids for the most part. And that obviously is going to cost more. They pick the cream of the crop. I think that if you look what's happening even tomorrow in our education committee, you know, the education budget is really good this year. It is awesome. We're getting $240 more for most students, $120 for the higher levels, which is great. Under my policy, it'd be $360. But those are the things that we got to look at, because they put in language yesterday that if you want to belong to a partnership program, which there's about 40 schools that have done their districts, that they can come in and they can, if they feel you're underperforming, they can walk into your school and fire 25% of the teachers. No questions asked. What kind of democracy is that?
Thank you. The next question will start with you, sir. Can you reach across the aisle to your opposition and make something happen? And please give an example.
Sure. So the first day I went to Lansing, I knew that they were a majority. and I knew that the only way to get stuff done for my community, what they needed, was to go across the aisle. I'm not afraid to say it. I work with the Republicans. It's the only way to get it done, but I've never jeopardized any of my morals, my beliefs. I've been able to bring back $700,000 back to this district in grant funding, where nobody's even come close to that. And yes, it probably was a favor. I don't know. But I work with them on issues I can work with. And I have to say, the grants are the biggest thing. All the grants I brought back were for recreation activities. I feel that's the root of all things. We have to keep our kids busy. We have to keep them in activity. And once we do that, they're going to see a path. I'm so happy that we have a Norwayne boxing gym now. There's 30 young kids that are over there every day boxing. And it's something that I think they're going to learn a lot from doing that, and I'm really proud of that. Thank you.
Thank you. In my 2 terms, I have worked with members of the other party, usually on amendments and getting amendments in to make legislation that has been, to make legislation better. However, to that extent, I'm also not afraid to stand up to bad legislation and fight against bad legislation, and not to just get along, to go along, to get along at the expense of our communities and of our people.
Thank you. And the next question will be for you, Mrs. Geis. What experience do you bring to the table for State Senate?
Well, I'm currently serving in the House, so I bring that experience. I'm also the only candidate who regularly comes home to the district, who's there in the district for community meetings, to be with their family, to meet with our local leaders, and who does not only do the job in Lansing, but is very community oriented. And I think that's very necessary when it comes to this job, because it's more than just legislating, it's understanding the needs of the community in order to legislate well.
I'll refrain from comment on that. I am a very hard worker. I have gone to Lansing. I have done what the people have asked me to do, represent them, giving me bill ideas, bringing grant money back home. I go to council meetings, I go to community meetings, I go everything. Yes, I do stay up in Lansing. I'm not afraid to say it. You know, once in a while I cultivate relationships with people, with other colleagues. I'm not afraid to say that. It's Tuesday and Wednesday, we're up there. I'll stay Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever I want to stay. But I have results. I'm the Democrat that has delivered in this race. I am the one, if you look side by side, you will see that my body of work is amazing. I'm not afraid to say that either. Look at my water quality. Look at my. No one even talks about school safety. I have 15 bills to keep our kids safe. Let's talk about that for about an hour. Let's not let something happen. So I'm very proud of what I've done, and I think I am the best candidate. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will
Sure.
be for you. Do you support equal pay for equal work for women?
So that's an excellent question, and yes, I do. I always thought that the biggest thing is for single parents is for child care expenses and transportation. Those are the things that we need to tackle. I believe everybody should be paid the same. I mean, state reps all get the same. My staff, I have 2 women on my staff that I pay them the max that I can pay them. One just graduated from college. She's my front desker, and she gets paid less, but I mean, I pay them as much as I can. I don't do a lot of mailings at home because I don't need to do mailings. I'm in the district meeting with people. I'm at community events, and that's how I relate to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Considering that yesterday was the 55th anniversary of the Equal Pay Act, and the work that I've done consistently throughout my service, I absolutely believe in equal pay for equal work. But it's even more than that. It's addressing the policies that perpetuate systemic inequities when it comes to paying women, and when it comes to paying minorities, and particularly minority women, when it comes to the interview process, the hiring process, the promotion process. When we are not paying women based on their ability and not based on their biology. We are doing women and their families and our economy and our households a disservice.
Thank you. The next question is for you. Who are the biggest contributors to your campaign?
My biggest contributors to the campaign are grassroots donors and also personal investment from my husband and myself.
So my biggest one was my own personal money, but I do take money from lobbyists because I'm meeting with them, and if I believe in their cause and I believe they're fighting for something that I want to fight for, I will take it. I've been offered so much money in Lansing, I won't touch it. And I won't tell you which issues those are, but it's like NRA and all these other ones. I won't touch a dime of their money. But yes, I do take money from lobbyists. I'm meeting with them. I'm meeting with their constituents. I'm meeting with the owners of these groups. I am trying to get the root of how we can make Michigan better. And I really think that taking so much money. Now, do I think our campaign finance reform should be changed? Definitely. I would love it to see that the most you can give is $500 and leave it at that, or $150. Right now, it's out of control. The Republicans just increased it to double. You know, it was only $1,000 per personal donor. And I do a lot with grassroots, and when the campaign finance report comes out, we'll see that.
Thank you. The next question is yours. Do you think Medicaid recipients should be required to work? Why or why not?
No, in fact, I serve on DHHS subcommittee, and that was one of the biggest arguments. Do I want able-bodied people to work? Sure. But what they did, they had no transportation costs in there, had no child care costs in there, or mechanisms. They want people, they think that everybody is scamming the system. Are people scamming the system? Sure. I'm sure there's a few. But to take it on a whole, to make sure that you had to work, and they thought they were doing us a favor by saying 29 hours, we're going to drop it to 20. I mean, there's seasonal work, there's part-time work. None of that was even talked about. In committee, we brought this up. They had no answers. It's a crazy thing. Healthy Michigan is something that has really helped a lot of residents, and why we would not continue to offer this and make people go to work that maybe can't work. They did talk about disabilities, finally, and that took them a while to do that.
So most people who are on Medicaid already have jobs. They unfortunately are the ones who have the low-paying jobs, part-time jobs, jobs with unsteady hours, unpredictable hours. So to suggest that Medicaid recipients aren't working is a lie. It is a bold-faced lie that the majority pushed on the public with a fancy slogan about the dignity of work. Yes, work is dignified. And yes, those of us who are privileged to have full-time jobs with health benefits, we receive those health benefits. We pay for those health benefits, actually, because it comes out of our paychecks. But I haven't seen such callous and inhumane legislation to harm the least of us by putting an undue burden on them in such a way that harms their families and their health.
Thank you very much. The next question is for you. Will you support Michigan to become a constitutional carry state in regards to the Second Amendment?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes, I will. Will you support Michigan to become a constitutional carry state in regards to the Second Amendment? I believe that means, you know, that people should be able to carry guns every place. Without a permit.
Wow, that's nuts. No.
Actually, that's a great answer. You know, I believe in the Second Amendment, but there are so many things that we need to address. That is crazy. It's almost as crazy as saying we're going to have teachers have handguns in classrooms. I mean, we're going to fight that one because that's coming up too. But I believe that someone should be able to own a gun. They should be able to go hunt. The background check should be, you know, at least a month. It should be a certain age of 21, and everything else. I mean, we can talk about guns. We could debate on guns all night, and I think you'll find we have common ground on that because it's out of control. The magazine clips, the AR-47s. And that's why I decided, after I met with Governor Snyder, is, Governor, we need to talk about school safety. We have no protocol. And I invite you to go on my webpage and look at the, I think, 16, 17 bills for school safety. I want our kids safe.
Thank you. We'll start with you for the next
Sure.
question. Other states have programs to train and assist those coming out of prison into jobs and places to live. This has reduced crime recidivism. Would you support such a program? Why and why not?
That's an excellent question. You know, one of the things that I am very proud of is that I am leading a bipartisan package. I am the lead person on this, and it's to make sure that we take care of our youth with prisons. Right now, we're putting 17-year-old kids in the general population. Well, they will never recover from that. And I hate to say that, but they will never recover from that. They are doomed. Maybe 2%, 3% will recover from that. These work groups are vital. We have the home builders. We have all these groups at some of our prisons that are going in and they're setting up these classes. We need to give people that made a mistake in life the chance to leave there and have an opportunity to succeed. We cannot just say you're a criminal and a felon and throw away the key.
Thank you. There's currently a program, I think it's at the Ionia Correctional Facility. I sit on Workforce and Talent Development, one we toured earlier in this term, and they are doing amazing work with giving the population that's there, some of the population there, skills, as well as education, formal education, so that when they are parolees and when they are able to come out, have that ability to return to the community and be productive members of society. There was a bill package that came out of the Senate earlier this year that would have given businesses incentive to hire such people. And unfortunately, a colleague, not present here, wanted to make it so that those same jobs would have been open to anybody, thus defeating, for 6 months, defeating the purpose. I support being able to help them return to their families, to their communities.
Thank you. The next question's for you. Do you support shutting down the Enbridge Line 5 pipeline through the Mackinac Straits? Why and why not?
Thank you. Enbridge Line 5 is well past its prime. It is something that is very dangerous. The potential catastrophe, if there were a rupture, would significantly harm our Great Lakes, our environment, potentially doing irreparable damage to it. It should be shut down, but we also need to look at the other piece of it is what happens when that is shut down, and we need to be very surgical, if you will, for addressing what you do with the oil that's going through there once it is shut down. And does that mean building another pipeline? Does that mean finding another way to address the issue? But we need to, it's something that we need to seriously look at, and the impact that that a catastrophe would have on the state and the Great Lakes region as well.
So this is one of the greatest issues I think we're going to be looking at pretty soon that doesn't involve roads, insurance, and schools, because this is a big deal. I do believe in a clean environment, but I also believe in productivity. I believe that prevailing wage was just overhauled. Those are the people that have done this. They need to get the oil over there. They need to have this. Do I think we should change it? Sure. But let's have a comprehensive plan. Let's just not go in and say that we're going to shut it down. Let's see about a liner. Let's see about a lot of other things. I want to see a plan. I want to see how much it's going to cost to build another line. Can we do it another way? Those are the things that I think we should be addressing.
Thank you. Next question is for you. What legislation can increase the affordability of college education for Michigan students?
So you're going to get about 109 different answers because that's how many legislators are there. You know, I don't think that college should be free. I really don't. I paid for it. I do think it's becoming unaffordable though. So obviously I like to see some changes in that. You know, not everybody's going to go to college, which is going to bring up what I think is the most greatest need right now. It's called career tech education. We need to filter some of our talented students to go into this. You know, there are jobs out there, plumbers, electricians, and so forth. And for some reason, it seemed like it was a bad word that we couldn't have them do this. My son's 16 years old, and he can take apart anything he wants. I think that's the things that we need to do, give kids opportunities. We're not all going to go to college. We need all these other ones, all these other professions. And I think, you know, the jobs are paying good money right now, so I think kids should look into it.
Thank you. I think that one of the ways to make college more affordable is to, you know, we need to have a two-year community college as an option, allowing our school districts to do what's called the middle college program, where you can do 5 years, and when you graduate, you also not only have your high school diploma, but you also have your associates because you've been taking those college level courses, either at the community college nearby. And I think that, I agree, the skill trades are excellent option for those students who want to do more creative hands-on work, but because even if they are college bound, that's money that you can earn to go towards college. State funding wise, for our 15 public universities, we need to do better with funding them so that they can also keep college costs down, and we need to also remind parents whose kids might want to go to college about the 529 plan.
Thank you. The next question is yours. If the next governor repeals taxes on the seniors, how would you replace the funds to balance the budget?
One more time, please.
Oh, yes. If the next governor repeals taxes on seniors, how would you replace the funds to balance the budget?
So you're talking about repealing the pension tax?
Yes.
We hope that that happens. We need a tax overhaul altogether. We really need to have a graduated income tax system in this state. The flat tax does not work. In fact, it is more burdensome on our low-income families and on our families who are struggling. If we had a graduated income tax system, the people who are making more would be paying a higher percentage of their income to go into the state. We also need to look at the corporate income tax giveaway that we gave 4 years ago and address that so that our corporations, our businesses are paying more so that they are also reinvesting in our communities.
So to backfill that, it's a pretty simple answer, I think. You know, it's all a shell game right now. And I'll give you an example. You know, at the lottery, everybody said that the lottery money was going to go to schools. Well, it did. But they took away that $800 million and put it somewhere else. So now when you go in a party store, you see it's $924 million for schools. But they took away the $800 million too. If that was both in there, it would be good. There's money in the budget. We have a surplus right now. We should have just fixed our roads in the first place. Now they're finding all this extra money. Well, how about let's give it back? How about instead of charging you 20% on registration that you just had if you had a birthday this year already, let's not increase the gas tax. Let's do all of that. Let's quit pickpocketing our residents with the pension tax and all this other stuff. And we have the money. And we can look at it again, and maybe we can change it, put a sunset on it. But the first thing I think we need to do is get transparent and show where all this money is really going.
Thank you. The next question will be for you.
Sure.
If elected, will you work to reduce the out-of-control auto insurance rates in Michigan?
Can I have more than a minute on this, or no?
1 minute.
Right. So, you know, it's one of the things that I think, personally, this is the biggest issue to you, the residents. It is so out of control, and how I'm combating it is I'm taking them on, and I'm introducing bills. I'll give you a quick example about the actuarial that they do if you did get injured and you're on a catastrophic claims fund. They had it up to 116 years old. I have a bill to make it a more modest 95. So they're having a budget that goes all the way to 116. Also, it was brought up earlier, I believe there's about $30 billion in this. We could have fixed our roads 10 times over. You know, it costs $1 million for a mile of lane. Why wouldn't we just go in there and take that? It's the biggest fight that I think we're going to have on our hands to make that transparent. Now they're trying to start another one that will be transparent, but they ain't going to touch the old one. It really doesn't make much sense.
Thank you. So we need to rein in, well, to answer the question of will I work on addressing it? Yes. We need to rein in the insurance industry. We also need to address the non-driving factors that drive up the rates that have absolutely nothing to do with whether or not you're a safe driver, whether or not you've been in an accident. So things like redlining, your zip code, your level of education, your age, whether or not you're widowed, all of these things that have absolutely nothing to do with how safe of a driver you are issues that need to be tackled. There's already a multiple bill bipartisan package of bills that has been introduced that sits there because the chair of the insurance committee doesn't want to take them up. But we'll keep reintroducing them until it happens. And that's what we do.
Thank you. And the next question will be yours. What is your view on the repeal of the prevailing wage law?
Second most callous thing that's happened by the legislature. Repealing prevailing wage was short-sighted. You can't in one sentence talk about the dignity of work when you're talking about Medicaid work requirements, and then in the next breath, remove the wages that help make skilled trades work dignified. It doesn't save tax dollars, as the lies that were told about the ballot when people were collecting the ballot signatures. There have been multiple studies from other states that have shown that it does not save tax dollars. And you're now forcing people to make less rather than earning the type of funds that they should be earning for the work that they're doing. Prevailing wage has worked, and we were short-sighted to have repealed it.
So this has been a fight of theirs for a long time, and they finally got it done. They stooped everybody by going out, and it's not even veto-proof, or it is veto-proof. The governor cannot veto this. And that is, when our governor cannot do that, that is just something else. But what I'm talking about is when you talk about CTE, which all the Republicans and everybody else is pushing kids to do this. It's been going on for the last 2 months really hard in Lansing. So they're telling our kids, go into CTE, go into CTE, and then they do this. Any kid would look at it and go, well, you just took away a good paying union job. And I do want to say this, my father, my grandfather, my grandmother, all union members. I wouldn't be here today without them. And I'm so happy that I'm able to represent people because they've put me here. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for you. Many Muslim and African American residents who travel down Michigan Avenue have been stopped and harassed by Westland police. What will you do to stop this and encourage cultural competence training?
Sure. So the year is 2018. I never thought that you would have to think about this, but we do. You know, profiling is embarrassing. I think there's some ideas out there that we really need to have a task force to go over this. And I think we need to get Michigan State Police involved with every community. I think we need to have them go into every community with diversity training, with everything else. Have a plan. We don't do that right now. Now, do I agree our police departments can run themselves? Sure they can. They're there for this job. But why not have an independent person or group, such as MSP, come in and maybe we look and see how many cases have been brought up and recognize the problem. I also want to do it before we have a problem. I want them to go and meet with our police chiefs and captains and sergeants and find out what's going on.
So I'm on the Michigan Legislative Black Caucus. I'm the secretary of it. I'm also the author of the Racial Equity Scorecard. This goes beyond just racial sensitivity training. It is about addressing cultural bias, racial bias, implicit bias. It is about rooting out a culture of demeaning and bullying people who might feel empowered, believe that they have the right to do that, and we need to address that at all levels. I believe that most of our law enforcement authorities are good, but we need to make sure that the bad apples A, don't get in at all, and B, when they are mistreating people, that they're out, and that collar follows them the entire time of their service.
Thank you. Next question is yours. Michigan has one of the lowest ratings for governmental transparency. Would you support the application of the Freedom of Information Act to the legislature and the governor's office?
I'm a co-sponsor on that legislation, so absolutely. We need more transparency in government from everything that we do. Everything that we do in terms of committee and session is public. We serve at the pleasure of the people, and it's the people's tax dollars that pay our salaries. And you should know what's in our emails. You should be able to access and find out when the governor knew about Flint, and how long, and why it wasn't handled the first time someone said something about it. Yeah, I absolutely support transparency in government, in the state government, in both the legislative and the executive branch.
Thank you.
So I totally believe in transparency. In fact, we have a colleague of ours who is putting around a report that I filled out, I believe my opponent did fill out, I know she did, which is good. And it talks about everything that we own, and I think that's good. I think people should know that, what kind of stocks I have. You should know that. You should know who you're voting for. And I applaud him for doing that. I thought he did a good job. He's getting a little resistance right now. The other thing is, I think our emails should be open. I think anybody should look at anything they want. I think a resident should be able to go and say District 16. I want to see, maybe they can black out some of the names that are people that are emailing me about a problem. Maybe they want to get involved in it. I don't see why that would be a big issue. I think that being transparent is the only way to go. I think that it's our duty to the residents. You are the ones who put us in office. We are accountable to you. And I think if you could see exactly what we're doing, I think you'd like it.
Thank you. Your question next.
Sure.
What would be the first bill you would introduce if elected or re-elected, and why?
So that's a really tough question, but I really think the catastrophic claims, just break that up. I think there's so much money in there. We could go into an actuarial and see who we have on the books now that we have to take care of. And I guarantee you it's no more than $1 billion right now, maybe $2 billion. I don't know, I can't get in there. But I would think if we could get that money and we could put that towards roads, towards lowering insurance costs, I think people would be happy. I think people would finally recognize that we're not letting someone group have all this money with no transparency. So that would be definitely probably the first bill that I would go and pass. So that'd be number 13 then.
Thank you. Repeal right to work would be the first bill. And then also reinstate the prevailing wage, and to get that pay equity legislation finally through.
Next question. What changes would you make to reverse the trend of groundwater removal by companies such as Nestle and Coca-Cola?
Well, not what we just did in the legislature last week. We need much better citizen oversight of our natural resources. You know, the way that it was heavily weighted against the several tens of thousands of people who said that Nestle should not be able to remove more groundwater versus 75 people who said that they should. It's just a travesty, and we should have more input. We need that citizen oversight. We also need to reevaluate how the DEQ addresses the permitting process, and we also need to make sure the DEQ has the budget to critically and properly assess these issues and the permitting. It's something that we also have to look at regards to the Great Lakes Compact, because we're not the only Great Lakes state facing similar issues. Wisconsin is facing the same thing with Foxconn.
So to be the shortest answer that I have, I think that we should give the permit to Nestle and make sure they give all the water to Flint. Don't sell it. Give it all to Flint residents. They took out $5.5 million when they know there's a problem there. That is one of the things I fought for with amendments, and I wanted to make sure that they were stripping that out of this budget. It's only going to be like $1.5 million, and I'm not sure that number is somewhere around there. When we know that it's going to cost at least $5 million to make sure they have water there while their pipes are still being replaced. So I say, let's call Nestle. Let's say, let's take water, and it all goes to them.
Thank you. Next question. Do you think taxpayer dollars should be used to help MSU pay the $500 million settlement to Larry Nassar's victims?
So definitely not. I think that we should help them with maybe legal. I don't think that we should be using taxpayer dollars for that. That's just my opinion. One of the things I do, though, is I listen to my constituents. If they wanted me to vote yes, the majority, I will do what they want. But my personal estimation is they have money. They keep raising the tuition. So they keep raising it for what reason? They have money in the bank, and now Mr. John Engler is there, and he can figure it out. I think you'll find most legislators in Lansing have said, no, you created this problem, you fix it.
Thank you. I'm sure that MSU, with its various funds and endowments and other sources, will be able to find a way to pay the victims without raising tuition and without borrowing or taking from taxpayer dollars.
Thank you. Next question. Should we go like that? Would you sponsor a bill to have universal gun background checks in Michigan and to extend the age to 21?
Yes, I would.
So I kind of hit on that earlier. Yes, definitely. It should be at least 21. It should be a longer time to look at it. I mean, we let things slip through the cracks. And I just think if we slow it down a little bit, have more restrictions on it, even though I believe in the Second Amendment, I think that would help.
The next question is for you. Would you support reform to the redistricting process in Michigan, which would depend on an independent redistricting committee that would include representatives from both parties? Why or why not?
So I definitely support that. I mean, we owe this to our residents. We owe it to let them vote for the majority of what we should be doing. No more gerrymandering. I mean, they have made areas that they can win now. It's been brought up, we're a blue state and let's remain blue. But when they put most of the cities or townships all Democratic, they know it's going to be a Democratic senator or House of Representatives. So why would you do that? Because they're taking away, as brought up earlier, City of Wayne is blue, hardworking people. And they are now with Northville, Livonia, and whatever. So they're going to have representation that is not indicative of their true values.
Thank you. It's one of the few ballot initiatives that I did sign was the one for getting rid of gerrymandering. I absolutely support the idea of a nonpartisan redistricting commission to look at our communities, the numbers, and draw sensible boxes instead of jigsaw puzzle pieces. And I think it's important that it's kept nonpartisan, because this state does have more than two parties, believe it or not. And we need to be cognizant of that, and also be cognizant of the fact that there are some people who are not party affiliated as well, and that we are keeping them in mind when it comes to looking at how does the legislature, both federally and state-wise, how do our legislatures best serve the communities that they represent.
Thank you. Okay. And the final question would be, what are your thoughts of going to a part-time legislature and ending term limitations?
Thank you. I think that the idea of a part-time legislature fuels people's emotions about how many days we're actually in session. You know, we're in session 3 days a week, but outside of that, we are in the communities, we're doing constituent work. It's often more than a 24 hour, well, maybe not 24, it's more than a 7-day job. And I think it depends on the legislator. Some legislators put in more than others, and it depends on the type of office team that they have as well. I think that having a part-time legislator, having term limits has hurt the state. You have high turnover every 2 years. People have to run. You potentially have new people coming in every 2 years or every 4 years if it's on the Senate side. So you don't have institutional knowledge. You don't have a chance to build those relationships. It's a bad idea.
So I am totally against term limits. I believe term limits are okay if it's the right number. So I think if you did like 15 years where you can do in the House or the Senate, I think that's pretty good, because all we're doing is empowering the lobby firm and the governor. But when you talk about part-time legislature, I would be fine with that. And I'll tell you why. Because it would go to the vote of the people. And whatever the people wanted would be good. Would I still run? I would still run. Would I still do the same amount of work? Yes, I would. It doesn't matter to me if it's I don't care if it's called part-time. I will not make it part-time. I will continue doing what I've done and trying to help the residents of Michigan.
Thank you. It's now time for the 1-minute wrap-up, and Mr. Kozowski, you're first.
Well, thank you. I just want to thank you again. I wish more groups would do this. I really think that, you know, a lot of times we're not out in front of people. We're in our own districts. And I think we need to be out more. I think we need to see the differences in both camps, or how many people are running. Just like the state rep race that's taking place in Wayne and Westland. You have 4 definitely different people running, and it's kind of exciting to watch. You know, I didn't have a primary then, so I think that, you know, if you look at my body of work, I think if you look at what I've been able to do, the money I brought home, and the people, what they're thinking back in Wayne and Westland, I'm going to run what I think is going to be a very powerful and clean campaign. And I'm going to prove the facts of what I've done. And I really appreciate you listening to me tonight, and I can't thank you enough. God bless.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure being here with you all tonight. I want to thank the League of Women Voters, my opponent in this race, and all of you. You know, of course, I too think that I'm the strongest candidate for this position, despite the fact that I have not been in Lansing quite as long. I do believe that my commitment to both doing the job in Lansing and to the community is a very powerful one. The conversations I've had with residents across the entire district have been very motivating. And I know that I will continue to work hard just on the Senate side for the entire district. And I look forward to being able to do that, and I hope to earn your vote on August 7th.
Thank you so much. We'd like to thank the candidates in tonight's forum for the 6th District State Senate. Remember that a voter must choose either the Republican or Democratic ballot for the primary, and your choices are restricted to that party's ballot. The winner of the Democratic primary in August will face off against the Republican and other party candidates in November. In the November election, a voter is free to vote for any candidate he or she chooses. They do not have to all be in the same party. As we stated before, the Republican candidates for both the 16th District State Rep and the 6th State Senate are running unopposed in the primary election, and that's why they were not here this evening. We thank the Presbyterian Village of Westland for allowing us to use their facility for this evening's forum. Our forum has been videotaped and can be viewed on the League of Women Voters website. The website is lwvnorthwestwayne.org. It will show on the website beginning June 18th. We also thank the candidates for their willingness to serve the public and to the audience for such thoughtful questions. We went through 23 questions just now on the Senate race. I think that's some kind of a record. The primary election is August 7th, and the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. We also invite all primary candidates to participate in the League of Women Voters Voter Guide, a publication that you can access online by visiting vote411.org at the end of June. There are cards in the back that say Vote 411, and it has all the websites on it, so everybody should pick some up for you and your friends. And we urge voters to review the responses of the candidates in the voter guide before voting absentee or at the polls on election day. If you're just registering for the first time, you must go and vote in person for that first election. After that, if you're not in the area, you may vote absentee ballot. The primary day is August the 7th. The polls are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. You will be asked for a picture ID if you vote in person. If you do not have a picture ID or don't have it with you, you can still vote by signing an affidavit of identity. Voting in a primary election is just as important as voting in a general election. We urge you all to be participants in our democracy by making educated choices in the primary election. This concludes the forum this evening, and thank you all for attending.
Thank you.